And welcome back to the last at least until more characters show up, last Planeswalker who would win of Clockwork Islander for the time being, unless you give me suggestions for different ones. And we've been going down the list of Planeswalkers from Magic the Gathering, a card game that's basically a high fantasy, well, not high fantasy, but it's a fantasy world. Multiple planes of existence exist, individuals who can play it, or realities, dimensions, you take your pick on language. And individuals who can traverse through those planes are called Planeswalkers. We've gone through all this, but ultimately it was going to lead towards this individual. It was going to lead towards Nicol Bolas, who is, or was at least at any rate, for the foreseeable, almost decade, one, if not the big bad in Magic. He is not just a Elder Dragon, he's pretty much the Elder Dragon. He was the youngest of along with Ugin, the 7 Elder Dragons during the Dragon War, but then he became a Planeswalker, and when he did, he was, at one point, one of the most powerful Planeswalkers of the multiverse, probably rivaling even, and I know this is going to get me crucified in some circles, probably rivaling Urza and, I think Urza, and Yawgmoth wasn't a Planeswalker, if I'm not mistaken, but Urza was. Probably rivaling Urza. In terms of power, who was God knows powerful. But anyway, he's again over 25,000 years old, equal in age to Ugin essentially. Bolas's hallmark is his touch, an inborn ability which causes a mind-shattering effects with the slightest caress. Essentially, just by touching you, he can shatter your mind and basically just go cause you to go insane. He also just naturally possesses huge mana reserves, which would be kind of the equivalent of Chakra in Naruto. He's got huge, mass amounts of it. In his duel with Teferi, he proved skilled enough with blue mana. Now, he has knowledge in green and white, sorry, but his primary colors are blue, black, and red for mana, so his techniques revolve generally around there. But he proved to be skilled enough to completely nullify the time magic that Teferi had created. Teferi, mind you, is a highly skilled time magic user. So Bolas was able to nullify the magic of an individual who specializes in time magic. Time magic. Now, that being said, I mean, he eventually did meet his defeat. He's not dead, though. Let's be clear. He met his defeat a while ago, just recently. But he... but he's still around, yeah. And I do believe you don't keep a villain alive, if you don't have impossible intentions later down the road. We won't see him again for many, many years, but we'll see him again. But similar to the previous individual Planeswalker I had on this yesterday, Ugin, Bolas is haxed. Even at his weakest, he was able to beat literal gods of other planes. In a world based off Egyptian mythology, which had its own gods, he was able to bitch slap those gods and took control of 3 of them. There was 8 of them initially. He took control of 3 of them, brainwashed the other 5, and then when they died, he's just like, okay, I'm gonna make you serve me again. He bitch smacks gods around, and gods of a different plane, who by all accounts are actually more powerful than the gods of the Egyptian plane of existence. Basically, they're the Greek-inspired gods. The Egyptian gods are the ones that Bolas bitch slapped around. One god in particular was able to scan the memories of a character, saw Bolas, and realized, oh shit, our entire pantheon of gods probably couldn't beat this guy. Bolas is strong enough to scare the crap out of gods. Bolas's powers include, but are not limited to, time magic, fire breathing, because he is a dragon, different forms of energy manipulation as it is. Telepathy is so powerful that master telepaths like Jace, who we did much, I think he was one of the first Planeswalkers who I did in this particular Who Would Win series. Master telepaths like Jace are powerless against how powerful Bolas's mind actually is. He can shatter minds of, like, if I put him against Professor X, I'll be honest, I don't know if Professor X comes out alive in that fight. Professor X could easily take out Jace. I don't know if he could take out Bolas. Especially when you're talking about an individual who's older than even the oldest individual, like the oldest mutant in X-Men. That'd be another cool fight, Nicol Bolas versus Apocalypse. But obviously, when you saw who I put him up against, that's not who I put him up against. I'll explain the reasoning why in a little bit. But Bolas's powers... See, the problem with saying what Bolas's powers are is that Bolas's powers are pretty much whatever the hell Bolas wants to do. Despite the fact there's 5 different colors of mana, white, blue, black, green, and red, and his particular mana base is in blue, black, and red. He does have knowledge of green and white spells. He just prefers those. Despite the fact he's specifically tailored to those 3, he can theoretically just do whatever he wants. It's because when you're dealing with individuals who use spells and magic, there's no real limitation. And the older and more experience you've had doing these things, and the way you've seen the world for many years, especially as a dragon, there's not much you can't do is the problem. But Bolas isn't invincible because his long-term plan was to become a god again. He lost his actual god-like powers. Despite how powerful he is, it's nothing compared to what he was. He was an individual who could literally create and destroy create and destroy worlds on a whim if he wanted, back at his peak. Afterwards, he was still an individual who could raise planes, who could raise worlds of existence. It's just, it wasn't something that he could just do all willy-nilly. It took effort at that point, but he could still do it without too much difficulty. Even at his weakest, he was still stronger than the vast majority of planeswalkers that existed. The only one who was he actually saw a threat was his brother Ugin, and he dealt with Ugin by basically through some trickery. Which is another thing Bolas is extremely good at, is deception and trickery. He's he's a chess player. Playing a game of chess 3 turns, 4 turns, 5 turns ahead of another player. Like, he's already going to know what your plan is before you do. Probably partly because he can read your mind, but also because he's already laid out plans that far in advance. So, I mean, I could go over a list of abilities that he almost certainly has, but I wouldn't be able to guarantee you he has those abilities, nor that he does not have those abilities. Either way, Bolas is by far he's not my favorite planeswalker. I already said Ugin's actually my favorite planeswalker. And then, I mean, Bolas probably falls in my top 5, but I don't know if I'd even put him as my 2 or 3. I've got a lot of planeswalkers who I'm just bigger, just from a character design and just overall style and things along those lines. And like color pairings and things along those lines, I'm just a bigger fan of. But Bolas is still probably in my top 5. Because he's a freaking dragon. Come on, he's a dragon. Who did I put him up against? Well, for me, unlike the issue with Ugin, where I was having trouble thinking of any specific individual who matched Ugin's motif, and then I put him up against Kaguya from Naruto, which I thought was actually a pretty good matchup. With Bolas, I don't think there's certainly individuals I could put him up against, but at first I'm like, okay, he's like a Conqueror, Darkseid or Thanos. Oh no, Darkseid and Thanos would kick his ass. I mean, Bolas is powerful and could probably put up a solid fight, but that's not a fair... Ultimately, they would kick his ass. Particularly Darkseid would kick his ass. But no, Thanos would probably be having more of a difficult time with Bolas, but no. So I'm like thinking on it real quick, but then when I thought of Thanos and Darkseid, I'm like, he does strike me as an individual where you don't use one person to fight him, you use a team. And then I'm thinking, Thanos, fuck it, we're going to do the Avengers. And to be fair, there's multiple incarnations of the Avengers, and I could use the comic interpretations. But to make this a bit more fair and even, because if it were the comic Avengers and it was all the Avengers rosters, ultimately I think Bolas would lose. He'd take a lot of them out, but he'd lose. But to make this a more even square fight on both sides, we're going to use MCU Avengers versus Nicol Bolas. And to be fair, we're going to use the amount of Avengers we have from Age of Ultron leading on, or Civil War leading on. So that includes Tony Stark, Captain America, Thor, Hawkeye, Black Widow, who am I missing? Hulk, Scarlet Witch, Rhodey, War Machine, Vision, and Wanda. Did I mention Falcon? If I didn't, Falcon as well. So that's 11 Avengers we got here. That's pretty much our own little mini War of the Spark. So Nicol Bolas will come in. Now, I could quickly go over each and every one, but we pretty much know them. Just to recap, Iron Man has a suit, many types of techniques. Currently, or as we last left Iron Man at, it's nanotech, so he can just summon it at will. Thor, he wields Stormbreaker and Mjolnir. Well, he did have Mjolnir for a while. He wields Stormbreaker. extremely powerful. Captain America has his shield, Super Soldier. Scarlet Witch has, that. It's never actually explained what her powers MCU-wise kind of are. It's telekinesis and things like that, but it's kind of like hex magic to some degree. Arrows with Hawkeye, guns with Black Widow, plus a little shocks. Falcon's got his wings and his guns. Rhodey's got his own War Machine suit. Hulk is Hulk. And Vision is Vision. So Bolas, let's say, is come to this plane of existence to take it over. Saying, no, I rule this. So he's sensing power coming from the Earth, like Vision Stone. So kind of like Thanos, he's wondering, this power is great. I'll give you one chance, mortal. I'll give you one chance, peons. Give me the power you possess, and I will spare you until I'll spare your world and take over a new planet, this plane. All this plane shall fall to me, but ultimately you will be spared. So he basically says, sounds very reasonable, doesn't it? And meanwhile, he's basically he can probe their minds like that. So he's probing minds, and he quickly realizes, and the only one who could actually catch on to the fact that he's probing their minds would be Vision, because he has the Mind Stone. The very nature of it would allow him to actually at least identify it. Is Nicol Bolas' telepathy strong enough to overpower the Mind Stone? The problem is, from the MCU's perspective, we've never truly seen what the mind. We know it can take over minds, sure, but it has limitations. Like it couldn't tap through Tony Stark's arc reactor. It can fire lasers, but we don't know how powerful the Mind Stone actually is. Like in theory, like in the actual Marvel continuity, you could subjugate entire civilizations with just the Mind Stone if your power over the Mind Stone was great enough. We never seen the Mind Stone do something like that in the MCU. I have to assume it is at least powerful enough that he could at least resist Nicol Bolas. He's just scanning off his mind, basically getting all their strategies down quickly. And, it's like, enough talking, beast, let us fight. So it's like, oh, no. And then he just throws Stormbreaker, which Nicol Bolas just stops midway through time. Because I would say this, Stormbreaker, if it hit Nicol Bolas is pretty big, though. Let's say that my hand is Thor. Nicol Bolas is like that tall. Like, he's huge. But Stormbreaker could seriously do damage to Nicol Bolas if he didn't already scan Thor's mind. It's like, what a quaint weapon. What a quaint weapon, Thor, god of thunder. Tell me, did you inherit this from your father before he died? It's like, oh, it must have been so. Oh no, of course not. You just sat there and let it happen. How dare you? How dare they just start charges Nicol Bolas and just whaps him with his tail? Just remember, Thor actually can't fly. I mean, he can leap far, but he can't fly without his hammer or his axe. At least I don't think he can. It's never illustrated the fact he can fly without it. He can jump really far, but he can't fly. So he just whips him around. Hulk smash! It's like down in beast, and then just again stops Hulk midair. Except he then just grabs him and just uses his touch. And Hulk is pure rage. His mentality, his rage might be able to keep his mind from breaking, and Banner's in there too. Problem is that, but I think it would still mess Hulk up. Hulk is actually afraid. We're gonna just toss him aside. Vision, meanwhile, is just, hitting him with the Mind Stone energy, which Bolas immediately can't, because he's a one individual. Bolas couldn't immediately get into the head of. Meanwhile, Wanda's trying to basically hold him, keep him back, kind of like she was doing with Thanos in Endgame. Spoiler, but the movie's been out for a while. Spoilers are all around this time, so yeah. Kind of like she was doing with Thanos and Endgame, kind of just binding him up, he's like, ugh! But he using his own power, he's counteracting it, just, ugh! Then he just basically uses some magic, hurls Earth at her, and she just has to get out of the way. And, he breathes fire, just keeping everyone else who can't make. Oh, Tony and Vision are trying their best to keep him, just blast him around, firing explosives. Bolas just planes walks out, and then planes walks again, just flaps Tony around. Thor eventually does get Stormbreaker back. It's like Bolas! And then basically Bolas just says, yes. Just grabs him and throws him down. He's basically just using his own version of time magic a bit to slow them down. Basically just keeping some of the flyers in midair, and even Vision just get. Bolas phases through him, or he phases through Bolas. Bolas phases through him because he tries to hit him, and tries to take Stone, but Vision won't allow. It's like, you won't be getting me that easily. Yeah, I can see. Oh, I can see, but I wonder how long you can stay like that. And eventually he has to phase out, and he just grabs again. His body's to phase in. He uses all of his might to basically just start ripping into his mind. Just again, Wanda's trying to save him. Just open his claw. You are powerful, girl, but let me show you real. Let me show, or I tried to do a good Nicol Bolas voice. Let me show you real. Now, let me me show you real power. And basically, he just kind of pulls her to him, then just breaks her. Her mind just goes. Ah! Meanwhile, Clinton, and Scarlet Johansson, Black Widow, just shooting and throwing arrows, just boop boop boop. And it's like instant gnats, and I think they're the first one, because unlike everyone else, even Steve has at least his shield. They got nothing to protect them. And Bolas, frankly, probably just whips them, just hits them straight on with his tail, breaks most of the bones of their body. If they're not dead, they're completely down and out. Then, Vision's doing his best. Bolas is struggling to get the stone out. It's hard. Just as he's about to actually manage it, Stormbreaker comes in, doesn't fully cut his arm off. His arm's pretty big, but it's the... And then it's like, just grabs. I was like, I've had enough of this, you little whelp. And just basically just uses all of his dark crest. Now, Thor's a god. Thor's mind has never truly been broken before, at least in the MCU. He's pretty, even in his depressed form, he was pretty resilient, but he's even if Wanda could affect his mind, I'm sure Bolas could. I don't know if he would break him, kind of like the Hulk, but I know Hulk, and even the Hulk wasn't completely broken. He's just now scared shitless of Bolas. But he just throws him out, and before Thor's now just both him and so basically Bolas takes down the two heavy hitters like that. Meanwhile, Tony's just trying his best, throwing everything he can at him. It's mildly irritating Bolas, but it's nothing serious. He just eventually starts to pull the armor off using his magic. And basically the nanites are now just trying to come out and keep the armor together as it's being torn from Tony's body. Just blast that Bolas, who's now just got a shield up. I've had enough of all of you. And just using fire magic in combination of like a force field effect, just blows the fire. Most of them are on the ground. Basically, Thor and Hulk are now seeing their friends just down on the ground near death. Wanda's just broken. Tony's got almost nothing left. Steve's still barely standing. And there's still Sam and War Machine, but they're not able to really do anything. Similar to what he did with Tony, he just kind of crushes them a bit. So ultimately, it's pretty much Steve and Thor and Hulk who are left. Hulk, luckily, is able to see that, Black Widow's either dead or just, broken, just bleeding profusely, just coughing up blood. And that triggers his real... We never saw a world breaker Hulk in the MCU. This triggers something akin to that. Just, he starts to get over his... Hulk! Just lifts up. Bolas, it's kind of like that moment where Captain America, it's like standing down to Thanos in the comics, talking to as long as you'll never win and all that stuff. Big words from such a small dead ant. He's about to snap his fingers, kind of like that. He fails to see Hulk there. He immediately realizes it's a little too late, and Hulk just, and he just. Kind of like he did with Surtur and Thor Ragnarok. Big enough to just cause Thor to go... Just, he whaps the Hulk around, but Hulk actually grabs him. But, however, instead of, Hulk throwing him around as he's about to, he just lifts Hulk up. Just, I thought I ended you, whelp. And then, he just basically does it again. This time, just not even caressing, just grabbing him and both invading his mind telepathically and using his caress. Basically gets into his mind. And it's so chaotic. He's like, ugh, God. And, the anger, the rage is impressive, but Bolas is 25,000 years old. His will is his will would be considered like adamantium. It's that strong. Jace, a telepath, like the main telepath in the magic world, tried to invade his mind, and basically Now, there's a visual representation of how a mind works. His mind was like a perfect sphere. There was no cracks whatsoever in it. And then Bolas even says, oh, did you want access to my mind? All you had to do was ask. And he just let him in, and he just overwhelmed Jace and basically nearly killed his mind. So Hulk would be a struggle, but combined with the caress, combined with him using his caress, which is basically able to just kind of tear you mentally, psychologically apart, and his telepathy, I think he finally just works over Hulk and just breaks Hulk himself. Banner's still around, but Hulk is just broken. Just, the boss is now nursing like a probably a broken shoulder. Let's be honest. If Hulk could take on Fing Fang Foom, then he could probably take on Bolas. Minus the fact Bolas has a lot more magical capabilities than Fing Fang Foom does. So, he's probably nursing a broken arm, which he's actually astounded. I'm astounded. And what of you, Thor? Have you decided to fight back? As long as this life in my breast, I shall not give up. I shall. And then Bolas just is like pulls Stormbreaker there, and Breaker away, and basically just using some magic, just kind of starts to pull it apart. It's like, really, do you know? And he actually goes maybe like an explanation. Do you know what makes up magic? It's like, is it will? Is it power? Is it vigor? Is it the soul of an individual? I just taking Stormbreaker, and he just sees Stormbreaker starting to be pulled apart. It's like, what does he do? It's like, no, it's mana. Mana exists on every plane. 5 different assortments. Everything is composed of mana. Everything draws from it. Everything is bound by it. But what happens when you unbind it? Unbind all the magical abilities, the mana, and he's just holding Stormbreaker. Stormbreaker looks like it's being torn apart. It's still physically there, but all the magical energy is just starting to pulse out of Stormbreaker. And then just uses the mana, actually uses it to heal. So I was like, oh, that's much better. I must say that I can see why you valued this weapon. And then just toss it down. It's nothing more than an axe hammer now, and Thor's just. It's like, goodbye, Thor, and then just whips him around. And now, it's Vision. Vision uses every last bit of his power, just, no! And there's, just, energy beam, and then Bolas just takes it. Basically just tears out the Mind Stone. Quite amusing. Combines it with his gem becoming, and just, yes, such power. I see, there's 5 more of these. Well, time to go search for the other ones. And then he said, oh! Doctor Strange is there. Just appears. It's like, oh, can I help? Just take. I don't know if that would happen, but actually, he probably could. MCU Doctor Strange, mind you, he could probably bitch slap MCU Doctor Strange. Real Doctor Strange is a different story entirely. The actual comics Doctor Strange is a very different story. But yeah, against the MCU Avengers, Bolas wins. Bolas wins with some difficulty. Like Hulk and Thor and Scarlet Witch would probably be the 3 biggest issues he would have, but he does have the means to beat all of them. But I won't say it's 100% victory in Nicol Bolas. It's probably like a 90% victory chance, because all the normal humans don't stand a chance against them. Tony could put up a fight kind of like he did against Thanos, might even get a drop of blood, but ultimately Bolas has abilities that could just rip his suit apart. Thor, Hulk, and Scarlet Witch, and Vision to some extent. Vision honestly wouldn't be that difficult, but Vision to some extent would be the biggest problems, because 3 of them can attack from long range. Scarlet Witch is very powerful, but very weak mentally, as we've kind of seen on some regards. Thor, we know, Thor and Hulk have been affected by her abilities, so it's very clear Bolas' abilities could affect them as well. Hulk is the biggest. Hulk, I think, physically is the biggest problem, because he could knock Surtur around without too much difficulty. I will say, though, Thor would probably be the biggest overall challenge, because Thor could theoretically kill him. With Stormbreaker, with a good solid shot, he could take him in the neck or take his arm off, start to cause him to bleed out. He could do enough damage to kill Bolas. Lightning could definitely hurt him a bit, though I'm sure, honestly, he could probably just redirect to lightning or whatever. So I'm not going to say it's 100% victory. I do think, like, between Hulk and Thor, if they tag team him, they could probably overwhelm him. Assuming that he doesn't get a solid spell off that could counter him. But the problem is that when you factor in an individual who has this multitude of abilities implied and known, a dragon who's already huge, 25,000 years worth of experience, and the patience and the mind of a steel trap. Let me rephrase that. An adamantium trap? Yeah, not impossible for the Avengers, MCU Avengers, mind you, to beat him. But he'd be very difficult. They'd be hard-pressed to get more than 10% win. And I'm going to go with a 10% win. So I decided to close it out with Nicol Bolas winning a 90% of time against the MCU Avengers. But let me know what you think. Do you think the Avengers could win more times than 10%? Or do you think Nicol Bolas is just going to reign supreme the whole time? Do you think they could even get the majority win? I mean, let's be honest. I know it sounds like I'm playing favorites on this, but I am looking at this from the viewpoint of what do they actually bring to the table. Like I said, Thor, Hulk, and Scarlet Witch are probably the Vision's powerful, but honestly, I don't think Vision could even one-on-one beat Bolas. Hulk, Scarlet Witch, and Thor in the right context could, in theory, one-on-one beat Nicol Bolas because they have that amount of power. Problem is that they would have to be going all out, and they'd have to be getting lucky hits and overwhelming Bolas, which is no small feat to do. So ultimately, I am going to go Nicol Bolas 90% of the time. What do you think? You think the Elder Dragon himself wins, or do you think it's the Avengers, or do you think it's a different combination? You think someone else actually gets the win shot, has a better chance over Bolas than the other ones in the Avengers? Let me know. Just let me know your opinions. But thank you for watching. I hope you enjoyed. Like, comment, share, subscribe. As always, you want us to review something, put in the comments below. Let us know we'll do a review of it at some point. I just would win Star Wars, Super Magic, whatever, anything I do on the channel. Put that in the comments below as well. I'll get to that at some point. So, now that we are done with this version of the monthly Who Would Wins, what would the next monthly Who Would Wins be? Well, I've done a lot of Bleach, and I still got more Bleach ones I've got on the way. But I'm thinking now we're going to do a different one. We've done Bleach, so let's go into the Naruto. And I think that's what the next ones are going to be. The rookie, was it the rookie 12 because of Sai, or was it rookie 13? There was 3 initial ones, then the rookie 12. No, rookie 13 with Sai. So we'll include Sai in that, and we're going to use we're basically going to use Naruto in the rookie 12. So thanks for watching. I hope you enjoyed, and I'll see you folks next time. Don't worry, though. That one's not going to start till next week, so don't worry on that. Thanks for watching. See you next time, folks. Later.